What if I told you one of the most influential drummers in rock history was also the most dangerous person to ever hold a pair of sticks? The sign on his gate warned visitors to stay away. A filmmaker spent 4 months earning his trust, and the resulting documentary opens with that filmmaker's nose getting shattered by a cane. This is Ginger Baker. He pulled a knife on his bassist on stage, then formed Cream with him anyway. His son lived homeless at 15, while Ginger blew millions on polo ponies. His 50-year feud with Jack Bruce ended with a deathbed phone call and 2 words: fuck you. This isn't a story about a troubled genius. It's the story of a man who accidentally invented modern rock drumming while destroying everyone who got close. Let's go back before Eric Clapton, before the fame, before the drugs became an excuse. By his teens, Ginger had fallen in with local gangs. He was stealing records from shops and getting the strap from his mother when she found out. One of those stolen records was the Quintet of the Year featuring Max Roach. The moment he heard it, something clicked. His mother beat him for stealing. Drums gave him a way to beat back. Here's what most people don't know about Ginger Baker. He was a jazz drummer first, a serious one. He didn't come up through rock and roll, he came up through the London jazz scene of the late 1950s, where technique mattered and pretenders got exposed.
Anybody could think that Bonham was anywhere near this kind of drummer I am. It's just extraordinary. Bonham had technique, but he couldn't swing a fucking sack of shit. Or Mooney, for that matter. I mean, if they were still alive today, ask them.
His teacher, Phil Seaman, one of the greatest British jazz drummers ever. Seaman gave Ginger 2 things: an understanding of African polyrhythms that would define his entire career, and an introduction to intravenous heroin. Think about that for a second. His drumming mentor also became his drug dealer. By his early 20s, Ginger was already gigging with Alexis Corner's Blues Incorporated, where he replaced a young drummer named Charlie Watts. That's right, before Charlie Watts was a Rolling Stone, Ginger Baker had his seat. He also met a bassist named Jack Bruce, and this is where the violence starts. Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce are one of the most celebrated rhythm sections in rock history. They also genuinely hated each other for over 50 years. The feud started in the Graham Bond organization. Jack was experimenting, playing busier bass lines, influenced by Motown's James Jamerson. Ginger didn't want the bass that prominent. His solution? He pulled a knife on Jack Bruce, on stage, during a show. Then he fired him from the band. When asked about it years later, Jack said the firing wasn't really about the music. It was about Ginger being a junkie with a chaotic character who was scared of success. Here's the insane part. Despite all this, when Eric Clapton suggested forming Cream in 1966 with Jack on bass, Ginger agreed. Clapton said they were a well-oiled machine together. Ginger knew it too. He just couldn't stop himself from destroying everything.
Talk through rehearsal at Ginger's house in Neasden, and those two had a sort of argument right away, because I think Jack had done an interview talking about it and sort of spilled the beans and let the cat out of the bag, and Ginger was upset about that, and so there was it went along the lines of, well, there you go, you've done it again. And I thought, well, what is this? There's something going back here that I'm not aware of. You know, you've done it again, implied that this was a pattern or something that existed before I knew either of them. And
during Cream's brief, explosive existence, the violence never stopped. One night, after Ginger hit Jack in the back of the head with a drumstick, a full-on fistfight broke out mid-set. This wasn't backstage drama, this was in front of an audience. Jack Bruce, on his deathbed in 2014, reportedly called Ginger and said, "I'm dying, Ginger, fuck you," then hung up. When Ginger called back, Jack never picked up again.
I was a young kid, much younger than him, and I guess I just like to wind him up. That's an English. You know, it's very easy to do that because he's got no sense of humour. So. It must have been terrible for him, really, I think.
So why does any of this matter? Why do we still talk about this violent, heroin-addicted, 4 times married nightmare of a human being? Because he changed everything. Listen to Sunshine of Your Love. That backward beat, snare on 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4, that's Ginger. Jack Bruce brought in the riff at double speed. Ginger said no, slowed it down, flipped the rhythm, made it iconic. He got 0 writing credit. Listen to White Room, that 5/4 bolero underneath, Ginger. Toad, one of the first rock drum solos ever recorded, Ginger. The concept of the drum kit as a lead instrument, not just timekeeping, Ginger Baker invented that. Neil Peart said it best. His playing was revolutionary, extrovert, primal, and inventive. He set the bar for what rock drumming could be. Every rock drummer since has been influenced by Ginger, even if they don't know it. The man was a jazz drummer who accidentally defined heavy rock, while being too mean and too high to notice. In 2012, filmmaker Jay Bolger released Beware of Mr. Baker. The title comes from the sign on Ginger's gate at his South African compound. The film opens with Ginger breaking Bolger's nose with a metal cane. This isn't a metaphor. The director spent 4 months living at Ginger's ranch, thought they'd become friends, asked a question Ginger didn't like, and got his face smashed in. On camera. That footage is in the movie. Throughout the documentary, people struggle to say anything positive about Baker as a person. His wife is asked to name his redeeming qualities. Her answer? Silence. Just silence. Eric Clapton calls him seriously antisocial, but admits he can't really say he knows him. Nobody could. John Lydon, Johnny Rotten himself, says, "I cannot question anyone with end results that perfect." That's the deal with Ginger Baker. The results were undeniable. The cost was everyone around him. Ginger Baker had 3 children. His son Kofi, also a drummer, didn't see his father for 17 years at a stretch. Kofi's childhood? The electricity got cut off when he was 13. The gas at 14. His family got evicted. Kofi lived on the streets at 15. Meanwhile, Ginger was blowing money on polo ponies, heroin, and recording studios in Nigeria. He earned $5 million from the 2005 Cream reunion and spent it all on horses. When asked if it bothered him to be the son of a legendary drummer, Kofi said, "It's never really bothered me because my dad is such an asshole anyway. It's not like I was stressed about making him proud." Imagine being that estranged. Imagine your own child saying that in a magazine. But here's the ending nobody expected. In September 2019, weeks before Ginger died, Kofi went to see him. And something changed. Ginger softened. They talked about music, about the old days, about carrying on the legacy. Kofi said afterwards, "The asshole had to open up to me right before he died. If he'd stayed an asshole, maybe it would be easier, but I didn't think it would affect me the way it affected me." The monster found peace, but only at the very end. Here's what we don't like to admit about Ginger. His talent didn't excuse his behavior. Nothing excuses pulling a knife on a bandmate, abandoning your kids to poverty, or breaking a filmmaker's nose because you didn't like his questions. But his talent is also why we're talking about him at all. Without Ginger, there's no modern rock drumming. There's no double bass drum standard. There's no treating the drummer like a lead instrument. Keith Moon, John Bonham, Neil Peart, they all built on what Ginger started. Simon Kirke of Bad Company said it perfectly. "He influenced me as a drummer, not as a person." That's the separation we have to make. You can learn from what someone created without celebrating who they were. You can acknowledge brilliance without endorsing destruction. Ginger died in October 2019. His ex-wife once said, "If a plane went down and there was one survivor, it would be Ginger. The devil takes care of his own." Maybe, or maybe the devil just recognized one of his own. Ginger Baker, jazz prodigy, rock pioneer, heroin addict, polo fanatic, 4-time husband, absent father, cane-wielding menace. The most disturbing drummer in rock history, and one of the most important. Some legacies are complicated. This one's pitch black. But the grooves are eternal.